Streaming across the globe, Ben Norris, Rob McKnight and David Robinson.
Ben, Rob and Robbo. News, reviews, entertainment news. It's the Ben, Rob and Robbo. Ben, Rob and Robbo. Ben, Rob and Robbo Show.
Welcome to the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. Here's Rob McKnight.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the Ben Robbo Show. You better take your spot, David. Thank you very much. Welcome to the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. I'm Rob McKnight. Ben Norris, I'm sorry about these shenanigans going on up here in Queensland at the moment.
No, I think it's great. I would expect nothing less from the two of you. The only time I've ever hung out with you two in the same room at the same time, I woke up the next day with basically some alcohol poisoning. So good luck to you guys this week.
I think I've done that today. I almost got Robbo to host the show today.
I am not surprised. What was the poison, Rob? What was your poison of choice?
It was a lot of red wine. A lot.
Someone asked me that the other day. They said, does Rob have a glass of red wine before the show because his tongue's often red? And I said, no. He loves Super Dupers. He has a red Super Duper food dye #1 every time before the show starts.
I never realised I had a red tongue. There you go. You learn something new about yourself every day. Robbo.
Great to be with you.
Yeah. Where have you been?
You know what? You know you're unfit when you've got to run for 10 metres and you get really puffed out. I've got to do some exercise, I think. The chins say that too.
Rob, could you do with a run, Rob? Because I always find that if I'm feeling a little hungover, a good run manages to get all this. It seems to stimulate your body.
Who the hell runs in a hangover? I'm reaching for the KFC and another bottle of wine.
Oh my gosh! Well, that says a lot about you and a lot about me. So, by the way, can I just quickly say I am obsessed with KFC on a hangover? And you know what? Yeah. The other week when I woke up, not feeling the best, my partner Ben, he had ordered KFC via Uber Eats, and it was arriving as I woke up from my drunken slumber. I mean, is that not the best thing you've ever heard?
Put a ring on that finger, Benjamin. That is a man that you need to marry. He is wonderful. It's almost like he's the incarnate of the Colonel. I think he's wonderful. Well done, Ben.
Well done, Ben.
I tell you what.
Go on, Ben.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, my only concern is that if Ben does the ordering and I'm not there, he orders what he wants. And I'm going to say I've got a bit of a signature KFC dish that I want, and he never orders it for me. So it's a win in one way and it's a lose another. I like the zinger. I like the zinger.
All right.
Let's get on to today's hot topic, shall we? Shall we do that? Shall we talk about our hot button issues?
We are talking about hot topics. KFC, yeah. Can we get a bit of sponsorship, hopefully?
Very good. I'll pay that one. All right. Let's move on to our hot topics. And the police in Minneapolis say that we should acknowledge the violent criminal history of George Floyd. Floyd had spent 5 years behind bars and had been charged with an array of offences, including theft with a firearm, drugs and assault. Ben, is there a point in bringing this up now? Does it change anything of the way he was treated and what we're seeing in the streets with this protesting and rioting?
No, it doesn't change anything. I think that, when anyone, for whatever reason, and I say whatever reason like that, whenever the name hits the media, we go and dig up absolutely everything to do with them. And then to sell papers, we spin the story in a way that, engages. So look, I'm not really surprised that we're digging through the backstory of his life. I think the real question is whether I hold that against this man. And I find it really difficult to hold anything against a man who has been murdered in such an outrageous way. So I think you can spin any story you like to sell your papers, but it isn't going to stop me from thinking it was a horrific circumstance.
I totally agree with you, Ben, on that thing. I understand that they want to kind of point that out there and saying, he wasn't some innocent, at the time he was innocent, but it's not like he was just some random person who has no criminal history. There was obviously some issue. We don't know that, and we look forward to the investigation telling us what is happening. But I agree with you, Ben. I don't know that this serves any purpose. It doesn't matter what's happened. It wasn't a death penalty that was given to him for, the assault or the drugs. He didn't get a death penalty. So, yeah, I agree with you, Ben. I don't think this really matters. And it almost feels like there's this kind of roundabout way of saying that they're justifying their actions. What do you think, Ben?
Oh, well, to be fair, I just am like, you can go and stay at Rob McKnight's house every week, because this week, since you've been staying there, you've agreed with pretty much everything that I've said. What's wrong? Are
Well,
you
you know
drunk?
what? This is another moment because we all agree on this one. His
Oh, wow.
history has nothing to do with the vile, offensive act that happened against him. We are not trialling him for his past. We are trialling the police over their conduct, and that should be what's going on here. I also find it interesting that, I agree with you, Ben, dragging out his past. Now, having said that, we shouldn't also make him a saint. He was a real person. He obviously did some bad things in the past, doesn't deserve this treatment. So I think most fair-minded people would think that he did not deserve to die. He did his time in the big house. So he, for want of a better expression, I know.
So true, Rob. So true. He's done his time. So he had done his time in prison. He had paid that debt back to society. So I actually, the more I think about it, the more I've listened to both of you, and we all agree on this. But it makes me feel really uncomfortable that someone's come out and said, yeah, he's had his past here, but remind you that he did bad things. It doesn't mean he's bad in the future. Mm-hmm. I actually find this really kind of gross that this person had come out and said, well, he was a bad person in the past. Okay, but whatever he's done in the past, which he never killed someone, there was some assaults, I'm not taking light of that. There were some drugs, not taking light of that. There was theft. But no one gave him a death penalty or the death sentence in a court of law. It's gross that they're bringing it up. It's not helpful at all.
Well, I think also, it's interesting, Mr. McKnight, that you want to say that, but we can't make him into a saint. I don't think anyone's making him into a saint. And these days, I find that nobody's a saint. When you go through anyone's history, we've all got a few misdemeanors that's out there, but we're all entitled to validation and redemption. Sure. And unfortunately, for this man, validation and redemption will never come.
I agree with Ben 100%.
We're ringing the bell again.
Yeah.
So do I.
It's so good.
Right.
Ben.
Now let's get into a topic so we can get to some actual conversation because I'm sure we'll have some differences of opinions here. The US Ambassador to Australia, Arthur B. Culverhouse, has issued a statement about the police attack on a 7 News crew. The reporter and cameraman were broadcasting live from Washington, D.C. when this happened.
We've just had to run about a block as police moved in. We've been fired at with rubber bullets. My cameraman has been hit. We've also seen tear gas being used. Here we go, they're moving through again. This is exactly what it looks like. Exactly what it looks like. We're just staying safely.
Oh.
Whoa. Oh.
Amelia, can you hear us?
Amelia, are you okay? Or your cameraman? Hello, Amelia. The police just charged at Amelia and our 7 News cameraman there.
That we were media, but they don't care. They are being indiscriminate at the moment. They chased us down that street, and as you see, they were firing these rubber bullets at everyone. There is tear gas, and now we are really surrounded by the police, and you really saw the way that they dealt with my cameraman, Tim. They're quite violent.
Well, the ambassador said that freedom of the press is a right Australians and Americans hold dear. We take mistreatment of journalists seriously, as do all who take democracy seriously. Prime Minister Scott Morrison has asked for an investigation into the matter. Robbo, we had pretty opposing views on this yesterday. Have your thoughts changed today? There have been some new angles coming out. This is reaching diplomatic matters. What's your view?
100% haven't changed my view at all. They're not royalty. They are people in the crowd. And you can't, in that instant, create a very formal, a very balanced decision when you've got to move back a group of people. So like I said yesterday...
Can I ask you a question on that?
You just did, but I didn't get to answer that question.
Hang on, because let me interject with an updated question to... ask you, if I may, Mr.
Sure.
Robinson, and then I shall yield the floor to you. So,
Go.
yesterday you were saying that the officers can't make split split-second decisions over who they're attacking. And this was an attack when you look at that other angle. But does that mean if there's a pregnant lady there or if there's a disabled person, they will be using the same amount of force? Because they can't, heaven forbid, they can't make that split-second decision.
No, and a good point, Rob. But you've got to look at things like that as what a reasonable person would do, and that's used a lot in the law. What would a reasonable person think or act? Now, reasonably, you would think that a pregnant woman or someone who has disabilities are not going to be in that situation.
They have
If
their
they
right to
are,
protest too.
That absolutely they do, but you've also got to take into account what's happening all around you. So if I'm a pregnant woman, I am not going to put myself into that situation because you can't expect people to be able to go, you, all right, now we're ramming. It doesn't work like that. You're surrounded by people who are attacking the police, who are looting, who are being violent. Now, the journalists were there and the camera was there. If you watch the other angle of it, you can see that they're behind a brick wall. I said this yesterday. The first policeman charges because there's someone who's got a big black thing there. It's a camera. He then stops straight away. The person who comes in after with the truncheon then stops straight away too. They realise that they're media. This is the big difference here. It's not someone, a cameraman and some lights and a reporter up on a hill and police have rammed up the hill to attack them. This is important. They were part of a mob. If you are going to be part of the mob, then don't cry about it afterwards. You are going to be treated like everyone else. So the media, if they're going to be, and they want to get the story. So this is another thing really quickly. In cyclone coverage, it's starting to change now. So a lot of viewers are saying, well, in a cyclone, you shouldn't have reporters out there telling us not to be out there, but they're out there in the wind and things are flying past them, then reporters shouldn't be out there. That's fine, but the reporters want to be in there. If they want to be in there, they're taking the same risks as everyone else, and they can't then hark back and go, oh, but we're media, we should be treated differently. In this volatile situation, you can't help that you're going to be caught up in the crowd because the police are trying to protect everyone. They're not going to go, oh, she's got a microphone, so she needs special treatment.
So you're predicating this on the fact that the journalist was doing the wrong thing. What about
I didn't say that. I didn't say the wrong thing. But if you're part of the mob, you can't be in that split second. I don't understand it. In that split-second moment, that police officer has to make a decision, and there's a wall of people, and you're expecting him to go, wall of people, wall of faces. People are throwing things at me. I could get stabbed or shot at any point. Oh, there's a cameraman and a lady with a microphone.
Those police went in 20 minutes before curfew. None of those protesters were actually doing anything wrong. And if you
but they needed to be pushed back. They needed to be pushed back.
Why?
That's the case.
They went past curfew.
They were warned. They were warned to move out of the way.
Hang on. Let's be very clear on this, people. They were warned that at 7 o'clock, the curfew would begin and the streets would be cleared. 20 minutes before 7 o'clock is when those scenes happened. So those protesters and the journalist, everyone involved in that scene were doing nothing wrong. And it comes back
Were they targeted?
They weren't.
Were they targeted as
media? They were attacked like other
Were
journalists.
they targeted?
They weren't targeted.
Were they
Answer
targeted?
the question, though.
They got hit and bashed. So that's a
Were
target.
they targeted for being media? Everyone else got bashed in that too.
No.
They weren't targeted for being media.
I've never said they were targeted for being media. What I've said is the respect of them being media has not been...
But you can't make that decision in that
that's
time.
exactly what you do. Then don't do the job. Let's move on because we've got some more about outlandish behaviour because we're going to stay with the US for a moment. And
you didn't ask me,
Atlanta
but you
police
didn't ask
officers
for
have
my
been...
opinion.
Sorry, Ben, did I interrupt? Sorry, what's going on? I'm doing an intro and I have no idea what you're saying.
Yeah, no, so sorry. I just was like, maybe, I think, sorry, you didn't ask me for my opinion on that one. Maybe you heard enough of it yesterday, which is a fair point. But I just was going to say, interestingly enough, they were notified for a period of time to move out of the way. They may have come in early, but look, if you're getting, this is what someone said to me yesterday, you're getting into the you're getting into the cage with a lion, you're getting into the cage with a shark, they don't know any better. You're just going to be in the harm's way. These people have got into harm's way and they got hurt. And I just want to also quickly say, I don't condone violence and I also feel quite stressed by it. But to all journalists that are out there in the face of cyclones and rioters, get out of the way and get to a safe place.
Okay, I'll read the intro. Staying with the US for the moment, and 6 Atlanta police officers have been charged after a horrific arrest was captured on video. The officers have been charged with varying degrees of assault, Ben, do you have a problem with this?
No, I don't.
Let's have a look at the SOT. Sorry, I misread my intro. Let's have a look at the SOT, please.
Put him down, man. Put him down. Put him down.
Okay, Ben, you've seen the footage now. Does that change your mind?
Yeah, I think it's pretty horrific footage there, but I think those people are being reprimanded for that, aren't they?
Yes, they are. But when you see that footage, can you defend it at all? I know. In fairness to you, you answered that question before we played the footage. So, where you said, I think you didn't have a problem with the actions, but do you think those police
Absolutely.
actions were in any way, shape, or form okay?
No. It's outrageous. And I think it has been documented that those police that were in that video have been, I mean, they're in the process of being tried for that. I mean, it just seemed outrageous. I think at the end of the day, Rob, though, I have to quickly say, you know, this footage that we get to see in short, sharp pieces of information where we don't get to see the full reason behind things makes me still think that I need to keep my eyes and ears open. You know, like when I'm watching 30 seconds or 60 seconds of something like that, and I just see the most harrowing thing with one particular narrative, it does make me wonder how it got to that point. It doesn't necessarily drive me to a right and a wrong. It drives me to wanting to gather more information.
I would suggest, for me, just that image. I know what you're saying there, Ben, and I agree with you. There's this idea when you see, you know, these Karens of the internet who make complaints and things like that. You're only seeing it when the person starts recording it. You don't see the lead up. I totally appreciate and understand, and I agree with you on that. With this thing, though, I just really think that you're seeing people in a car. There's no one else around. It's not like what I'm saying. There's a volatile situation. It wasn't there. They were pulled over. They stopped. She was even trying to get out of the car. They then taser you and then go around, smash the window. He's not going to get out. You know why he's not going to get out? Because he's a black man. Of course, I think I would be frozen. So if it was for a gay issue, I would be frozen thinking, if I get out of the car, I might get shot, because that's what happens all the time. They then smash the window. And then if you look at this, when he is pulled out of the car, you can hear that... That means they're still holding the trigger of the taser. He's on the ground. He hasn't resisted. He hasn't done anything wrong. This other one, that is so scary, and especially in this day and age with if you're a black person and you get pulled over by the police, they were outrageous. They should be fired, they should all be charged, and they should all be convicted.
I agree.
Just based on that 30 seconds.
Do you know what's really weird about that as well is, like, you know, if you think about anytime there's a conflict, whether even if it's just verbal or it's physical, and you see someone starting to cower away, and you could see that those two people were trying to cower away. There was just so many instances in what we saw in that video where there was opportunity for the police to take a different angle, and they continued with that force, and that was what made that video just absolutely so disturbing to see. And, you know, so just... on what I saw just then, I just can't believe what those police officers did, and I believe that they'll be rightfully punished.
And I agree with you. Like just to see that kind of that force used, and then so back to your point, I think, Rob, before, and you've said it yesterday as well. There's a training there. This is where I think that you can make those decisions. Now, neither of those people were lunging at them. Neither of them had a weapon. Neither of them were driving away. They pulled over when they were told to. All of that kind of thing. That's when I think the training needs to come into play, and where they go this like that. The image that haunts me in that is that when they smash the window and you can see that poor man kind of writhing around because they continue to taser him, that is where the training should come in handy, and that's when it should come into play. These people have no excuse. It was wrong and disgusting, but I take your point before where that training should happen. Are you able, or do you think that this is where training could be used?
I think there's a lot of training that needs to go on between identifying protesters and journalists, but also the outrageous use of force that these police officers just seem to think is okay. You know, people peacefully protesting on the streets. Yes, there have been segments of protesters who have been absolutely going beyond the pale, destroying businesses, absolutely outrageous. Bring them down. But now any protester is seen as a thug. That's how it's looking. Despite what the president said, he said we will work with peaceful protesters, and then went on for the majority of his speech yesterday to talk about the force he will use to bring this to a stop, including having the armed forces get people away from a church so he could have a photo opportunity inside a church, and even got one of the fathers kicked out of that area as well. You know, like they threw tear gas into the church so that anyone who was in there had to get out so that President Trump could get his photo opportunity. So, you know, not everything is being done for the right reasons here. Peaceful people are being targeted now because it's come from the top down that the use of force is A-OK, and that is a really scary thing. Now, look, let's move on topics. If you're one of the many people who have dipped into their retirement funds, it would appear you're not spending a lot of the cash on... it appears you're spending a lot of the cash on non-essential items. The ABC reports that a vast majority of the cash is being spent on alcohol, gambling and furniture. Real-time banking data has been used to compile the report. Ben, what do you think here? People spending money helps the economy, but should we be dictating how they spend their money?
Well, yeah, I think it's a really dangerous zone to get into, because at the end of the day, one person's decision on what's a form of entertainment is different to another. So, like, you know, for people out there that enjoy gambling, and I also say right now, you know, we should always be gambling responsible and reminding people of that. You know, that is a form of someone's, you know, entertainment. And look, another person's, and they might loathe another person's form of entertainment. Who are we to say what it is that's helping you get through life? So I don't really want to police that from other people. I mean, I feel somewhat disappointed, like a parent, I guess, when you hear something like that, because you think, come on, people, you've got to be smarter than this. But we're living in troubled times, and people are reacting really strangely. So, you know, if you know people that are struggling with gambling, or you know people that are not that great with money, reach out to your friends and make sure they're okay.
Ben, I don't know what, maybe it's the end of times, the end of days, but I am about to wholeheartedly agree with you. Now, if you want to release statements that say that gambling is taking a lot of money, then what about other forms of entertainment? Like you say, oh my God, Ben, I could reach out and hug you. Maybe people are buying a shit ton of DVDs, or they're buying, you know, hi-fi systems, or they're buying all this stuff. That's okay. It seems that we're, again, alienating people who have issues and going, well, you're doing the wrong thing again. But there are a lot of people who gamble who don't have an issue. I grant that. There's a lot of people that do have an issue. But who are we to decide what is someone's entertainment? So some bureaucrat who doesn't like gambling is going, oh, well, you shouldn't do that. Ben, 100% wholeheartedly agree with you.
There is some breaking news on this, Robbo, that... Josh Frydenberg, the treasurer of our great nation, has confirmed that we are in a recession, and that is the advice he has from the Treasury Department, where the June quarter is expected to be. We have avoided the economic fate and the health fate of other nations because of the measures that the government has taken, he's saying. So we are in a recession. We do need people to spend money.
And that's exactly right. Like, I don't understand this idea of non-essential items. What you want is to support the economy. So we're getting two different messages here. We're saying, support the economy, shop local, buy local, blah, blah, blah. But you can only buy local fruit and veg. You can't support your local furniture place. You can't support your local electronics place. If you go into country Australia, you're still going to find a lot of Better Electrical, that brand, right? So that still exists very much so in country Australia, and it's the only electronic shop sometimes in the town. So obviously, if you've got this money and you had the fridge that's been on the fritz for months and months and months, you've got this money. Well, I'm going to go and buy a fridge because I know Jerry, who owns that shop, and I'm going to buy it and help him. I don't understand this idea of going, well, yeah, what Ben said, what's your entertainment is not my entertainment. What makes it any wrong? I don't understand that.
I agree completely. So there's another one. This bell's getting a workout today.
I just want to also quickly say, though, Robbo, just really quickly, you mentioned that people might be still buying DVDs. It's not 1999. I don't think anyone's buying DVDs.
I'm still holding on to the past.
Yeah.
I'm still buying compact discs. I'm still buying CDs. Sorry. You're right. Good point.
Very good point, Ben. Now, look, if you've been on social media over the last 24 hours, you have no doubt seen a lot of black squares. The idea behind it is to express solidarity with the people who are protesting George Floyd's death. However, more and more people are saying that it's not helping and doing more harm than good. The hashtag Black Lives Matter is used by activists to gather information, but currently a lot of its power is being lost because of the black squares. Robbo, shouldn't this be looked at as being an important and helping the cause?
No, it shouldn't be, because it's not helping the cause at all. There are a couple of things to unpack here. It's plugging up the Black Lives Matter hashtag. So activists use that in order to, move information and talk about things and talk about what they're going to do next. That's really important. So for people to just put a black square up, they then go like this. Oh, I'm going to do this black square. I've helped the cause. No, you haven't. No, you haven't. You haven't at all. And this is really important. If I give this kind of example here, it's the same Red Nose Day. We all know Red Nose Day. It's the same as painting your nose red and saying, I've helped the cause, as compared to someone who actually went and bought a red nose, because buying the red nose does help the cause. You painting your nose and putting it on social media is absolute rubbish. I'm really passionate about this subject, because if you actually want to make a difference, put your black screen up if you want to, but how about you donate to Indigenous causes in Australia? That's where you should do it. But you can. There's been psychological studies that have shown that people who do these things on social media, it's called slacktivism. So it's not actual activism, but they walk away going, well, I've made a difference. No. What you need to do is go down to the soup kitchen for the homeless and make some soup and serve some soup. You putting up a black screen does nothing apart from you walking away from your screen going, I've done something right. It's rubbish. Do the black screen, but follow it up with actual activism. Don't be slacktivism.
Fair enough. Ben, you're a big social media user. Do you think the black squares send a good message or not?
A good social media user. I've lost 1,000 followers this week. It's crazy. I think would prove that I'm not that great on social media. Maybe your followers agreed with my views and not yours, Ben. And look, you know what? And that my friend, is probably a reality.
So that's weird. No.
Did you?
No.
Does that mean you've got 1,000 followers?
Well, back to the topic. Back to the topic, you two. Back to the topic. Come on.
I'm going to say that, look, a friend of mine, Alana McLean, who I do a show with in the morning, Ticket Jumpstart, she made a very good point this morning about this, and that is that she is not doing the screens. What she's doing is actually making some comments on other people's pages and on their Instagrams and on their socials who are making a difference, because we are increasing the algorithms by doing that. I think it's really important to be a contributor. So often do we, as people who have these followers on social media, we're used to creating our own content. But I think in this time, it's important to share other people's content and comment upon it, which, for a lot of these influencers out there that have these tens of thousands of followers, asking them to comment on other things is much better than them posting useless black squares.
Fair enough. Thank you very much, guys. As always, a great hot topic segment. But let's move on because it's time to get the very latest news headlines from the one. Can you tell I had some drinks last night, people? Can you tell?
We can.
No,
We can.
I can smell
I
it
can
from
smell
here.
it from
it's like
here.
a brewery. Yeah. Hey, oh my God, Ben and I are so in sync. It's starting to get weird. I think Armageddon's on the way.
Let's get the very latest news headlines from the Ticker Newsroom with Aaron Young.
Rob, thank you. Good afternoon. Let's check the news headlines for today. The state of Minnesota has launched a sweeping civil rights probe into the Minneapolis Police Department a week after an officer allegedly killed George Floyd. The probe will be designed to root out what the local governor calls systemic racism that is generations deep. The Education Minister will stare down universities pleading for urgent government support. Comes as Vice-Chancellors warn Australia's research capacity will be devastated if they don't secure additional funding. The death of Nathan Turner is no longer a story of public concern, according to the 30-year-old's father. Nathan's death was incorrectly deemed to be Australia's youngest COVID-19 victim. In a Facebook post, Rodney Turner says the family is not after public sympathy. The Reserve Bank has held out hope the economic downturn may not be as severe as first feared. We are now about to find out the official figures expected to confirm the economy is in the first recession since the early 1990s. And we've all been using Zoom. Now that company is reaping our rewards during the February to April period. The company has now turned into a Wall Street star. Zoom's revenue more than doubling from the same time last year. Now the weather map for today. Melbourne a chilly top of 15 degrees, Sydney 17, Brisbane 21 degrees and sunshine, Perth cloudy and 22 and overcast for Adelaide and 16. The local market now off to a pretty good start, spectacular in fact, ASX to open higher and it did ahead of GDP, Wall Street rising, defying the US unrest. If you have a look at the Dow, what you see on the charts is not what you see on the streets. The Dow shooting up late in trading to finish over 1% after trading sideways. You are watching Ticker. I'm Aaron Young. Now back to the Ben, Rob and Robbo show.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Well, she's been involved with some of the biggest shows around the world, has survived the jungle on Channel 10's I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and boy, can she dance. We are absolutely delighted to have Bonnie Lithgow on the Ben, Rob and Robbo show. Hello, Bonnie!
Hello, Rob.
Bonnie, you've been in the entertainment industry pretty much all your life, but when you appeared into Sir with Love, was that the moment you felt as though you had made it?
Actually, it wasn't, because I didn't realise I'd made it. Because what happens, I was actually at the academy, I was actually doing class and stuff like that. And James Scovell, who came in, who was the producer, he started auditioning us and eventually I got the job. But do you know what? I was a kid, I was a teenager, and I just thought it was like another job.
Oh,
and
you just thought this happens to everyone. Not everyone gets to appear in a major Hollywood film.
I know, Rob. It was just because I don't know, really. We were all auditioning, and then the next I knew, I'd got the job, and then we were at studios and we were on location. And it wasn't really until we were all introduced to Sidney Poitier that I thought, this is actually quite a big film. And honestly, it's one of those strangest things that we were on that film for 6 months. And yes, it was an amazing turning point for me in my life. But at the time, I didn't really realise.
Amazing, isn't it? But then, so you've lived an extraordinary life, and I don't think many people know about your involvement with American Idol. Why don't you tell us about that?
Well, actually, I was very involved with it because we were all in England. There was Nigel Lithgow, obviously. I was married to Nigel at the time, and Simon Fuller and myself, really. And Simon had a big company, and he wanted Nigel to join the company. And funnily enough, we'd been in Australia only on a holiday, and we'd seen this program called Pop Idol, I think it was.
Pop Stars, I think it was.
Okay, Pop Stars. And we were all watching it going, wow, that's a really good series. So then Nigel got hold of the people that were doing Pop Stars, and then we took it back to England. We spoke to Simon Fuller, and the next we knew, Simon wanted to do a series. So that's kind of how we started the Pop Stars in England. Isn't that amazing? It comes all the way from Australia back to England.
Yeah.
And so we did that series, and then Simon said, I think we should try doing this in America. So, oh my gosh, we had sleepless nights. So Nigel and Simon went to Fox and they kind of said, oh, I don't think singing program, we don't think that'll really work. So I know, isn't that amazing?
Amazing.
And then 6 months it took with Nigel backwards and forwards to LA and me really suffering all the heartache that was going on at the time, because Fox would ring at 3 in the morning and 4 in the morning just to try and see whether we could do the series or not. Anyway, eventually they said we'd give you 1 season. So Nigel, myself, Simon Fuller, we all went over to America, and obviously they series, and I was the producer on the series for three series actually, which was great fun because, oh my gosh, when we went to New York, the crowds of young people that just wanted to sing was incredible. So it was the beginning of a huge situation and series. And yes, I was involved for 3 of those.
Well, amazingly, I've heard the stories about Simon Cowell. They didn't believe he would make a good judge and didn't contract him beyond season 1, which meant he could get a big pay increase for season 2. Was that the same for Nigel and yourself? Because if they were only planning 1 season, did you end up with a big bump up when this show became the biggest thing on the planet and you guys were the makers?
Well, yeah, absolutely. It was exactly as you say. Funnily enough, with Simon Cowell, we had to persuade him to actually do the series. Simon Fuller's... Yeah, we did. It was Simon Fuller has a house in the south of France. So I can't remember exactly how many of us were there, but there was a few of us. Simon Cowell was there as well. And Simon Fuller and Nigel, not me so much, but they really tried to talk him into doing it, because, he didn't want to do that series. Simon did not want to be in front of the cameras. He was his own private person and he wasn't interested. So when we got season 1, I know. And I watch him now and I think, oh my goodness.
How he's changed that tune.
Yeah, hasn't he? I mean, I watched Britain's Got Talent the other night because I can see it here. And Simon's just so different. He's still a lovely man. I love him to death, but he's just so confident. And when I think back to the south of France and he's kind of around a dinner table chatting to him about American Idol, he wasn't that same person that he is now.
There's something you told me the other day, which I found quite extraordinary and was really the reason I wanted you to come on, because you've led this amazing life. But for most of your life, you didn't know your real father, did you?
No, it was quite incredible. My mum and dad got married very young, and we will name my real dad John so we don't get confused. And they were 18 and 19 when they got married, and I was born, and they were seemingly happily married. I was a kid till I was about 3 or 4. And then something happened, and suddenly my mum took me to my grandparents, and I never saw my dad. And you know what? It's a terrible thing when you're a 3 or 4-year-old and you don't know what's going on. You're aware that you have a dad, but then suddenly your dad disappears. And I seem to be spending more and more time with my grandparents. And then Mum said to me that she wasn't going, her marriage was over. I mean, again, I was very small. And I had a new father in my life, who I have to say was an incredibly wonderful man called David. And I then moved in with Mum and my stepfather. And he really did his best to really be a father to me. But I think somewhere along the line, I just wanted to find out the true history. And then I kind of grew up, and when I got to marry Nigel, I found out an address, and I'm 3 the Dell, Chigwell, sorry. And this address was, somehow I found out that that's where my father lived. So I sent him 2 or 3 or 4 letters to say, hey, I'm around, but I never heard a thing. And it wasn't until 3 years ago that my youngest son, Christopher, said, Mum, what did happen to your dad? And I said, I don't know. I just don't know. So he started delving and said, you know what, Mum? There's no death certificate. He said, I think he's still alive. I said, you're kidding me. Wow. So then I know. So then he found out that there was a Joyce, which was my mum's name, and a John that were married there. And then he went further and found out that there was a Rafe Jones. So then he searched on Facebook, and lo and behold, he had about 4 or 5. So he rang them all. And he I mean, honestly, so he said, Mum, I found your brother. And I went, you're kidding me? He said, no, he lived. This is the weird thing, Rob. He lived in Epping. Now, and I don't know if you know England at all, but I live in a little village called Cuffley. Okay, so I live in a little village called Cuffley, and 15 minutes away was where my real father lived.
No.
And my brother, 15 minutes away. And the address that I did have, he did live there, but he had moved on to this other address. So Christopher rang Rafe. Oh, it's making me go chilly thinking about it.
But then you met your dad, didn't you? But you didn't get a lot of time with him.
No, Rafe arranged to meet us in Epping in a restaurant, and oh gosh, that first meeting, he hadn't really changed from my memory, but just got older, and he walked towards me, and I didn't really know what to do. I just put my arms around him, I think, and just held him tight and said, Dad, I'm so happy to see you again. And he was a bit lost for words too. It was a very quick, it was nice having it over a dinner, but it was a kind of a quick it's really hard, Rob, because how do you speak to somebody that you haven't seen for 60 or 65, 60 years?
Yeah, there's a big gap there, isn't there?
Yes, it was a tremendous gap there, and I was very on edge. I was very nervous, but we did. And his wife was there, Sheila, who he'd been married to for a long time, and we planned on meeting again. And we met several times after that, actually, and I got to know him so much better. And what I discovered was, because I wanted the pieces, there were too many pieces missing, and I wanted to find out. And he said to me that he fought for custody. I didn't even know that he wanted me to live with him, but unfortunately he had lost. And I said, but why did you leave me? Why did you just leave me with a stepfather that at the time I didn't know? And he said it was because he felt that my stepfather was in the middle classes, and he felt that the life that I had with him would be so much better than the life he could offer me. Oh. I said, but that doesn't, I know, that's what he said. And so he said he felt that he couldn't really be involved in my life and give me the life that he felt that I should have. And so he just walked away, he just completely walked away. And it was funny because when I was about 12 or 13, my mum wanted me to legally be adopted by and have the surname of Shaw with David. To which I said, yeah, that's fine. At the time, I didn't know him. And then when I met my dad and we got to talk a lot, he said one of the hardest things was when he found out that I took away his name. And I had no idea. I said, well, I wouldn't have done, but I just didn't know. Anyway, he's sadly died now. He died a year ago. And
So you didn't get a lot of time with him in the scheme of things, did you? But you got some time and you got some closure, would you call it?
I did, Rob. I did definitely got. He was just such a beautiful man to know, and I'm so miss him. I'm so miss growing up with him and knowing him. But I did get closure because I understood that he wanted me to have a better life. As it happened, it turned out that he had a pretty good life in the end as well. After he died, my brother Rafe, who, as I told you, were really close, he brought round an old chest to the house. He said, Bonnie, you need to have this. And I said, what is it? And I opened it up. He had every cutting of everything I had done from when I went to junior school, senior school, when I got to Serve with Love, all the cuttings from that, everything from when I went into the young generation. I did a children's TV series called Sooty. He kept it.
He had it all.
He did, Rob. Very sad.
And amazing he got that closure before he died too, Bonnie, because it's an amazing story of reconnecting, and especially when you're only 15 minutes apart. Bonnie, you really have led the most extraordinary life, from your career to your personal life. It has just been amazing. So, look, I can't wait to have a few drinks with you in the near future, but I'm glad you're
Me
doing
too.
well, and enjoy Australia while you're stuck here.
Thank you very much, Rob. I shall certainly enjoy Australia while I'm stuck here.
Thank you, Bonnie. We appreciate you being on the Ben, Rob and Robbo show. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Rob. Bye.
It's the random life shot of the day. Where are you going today? You never know where you'll end up with the random life shot of the day.
Today we're taking you to Chicago. This is the Wrigley Field Stadium, home of the Chicago Cubs. And it's interesting there today, that square, that area was jam-packed earlier today when we brought up this live shot. We've got a bit of a buffering issue, it looks like. But it was full of people. Then at what I believe was 7 o'clock local time, the police came out, cleared everything, and now it's an empty area as the curfews in the US take place. But interesting to see that they've got an end racism sign on the Cubs board there. Let's take a look at some feedback coming into the Ben, Rob and Robbo show. And we've got Jamie saying, hello, Ben. Looking forward to another drama-filled day. Drama here? I couldn't think of such a thing. We've got this from... Sorry, that one. There we go. We've got Mary saying, Mr. Robinson, they are not guilty by simply being there. They are protesting. Only a few are being violent. Media should be there, and they should be safe regardless. I could not agree with you.
No, that's not even remotely what I said.
Again, Robbo, we're listening to
not
our
even
viewers.
remotely what I said. Yeah, well, no, wrong. Go ahead.
Jeanette says, I saw the longer version of the media clip, and the police officer came back to punch the cameraman, first with his shield, and then when they said media, he did his camera. The baton then got the reporter. I agree police were told everyone to get back. The reporter and cameraman was not behind the barrier with others nearby, but got hit. We've got this from Amanda. The biggest issue with people getting their super out is that they aren't aware of the compounding factor for what a difference it will make to the amount that they will have in the future. This from Peter. I love how you all deconstruct the issues thoughtfully and challenge each other's views, even if it makes them feel uncomfortable. That's how people evolve. Oh, Peter, I love that.
I like that, yeah.
Andrew,
Very nice.
that's pretty much our show, that from Peter. And finally, Andrew, I'm confused with Ben and Robbo's comments. They can justify the brutality with the 7 News reporter because they were at the protest, but not with the people in the car. What's the difference? The police in both examples acted disgracefully, and there is no justification for their violence. David, please listen to the feedback. Their job is about protecting the community.
We didn't justify the violence on the people. In fact, we said the complete opposite thing when they were pulled out of the car. So we said that that the protesters with the media, that was, that caught up in the moment. I absolutely said the opposite thing of what that person just said in regards to the people who were pulled out of the car.
No, the point is you think it's not okay for what happened to the people in the car, but you think it's okay what happened to the reporters.
They're
Anyway,
two
we've
different
had the debate. Hot
situations.
button topics are over
No,
because
I know.
my man Bruno is standing by. And Bruno, I love taking a look at the world through your eyes every week. If I just keep
Bruno,
talking,
sorry.
maybe no one can interrupt, Robbo. I wasn't giving you a chance. Bruno, every week we look at the world through your eyes, but you are known as the list king. Sorry. Bruno, your button isn't... Oh, he's on guest 3, that's why.
Sorry, I'm
Bruno.
on the wrong one.
Yeah, so no, it's all right, Bruno.
You're okay, Bruno.
Amanda's talking to me. I didn't know if my mic was off. I'm hungover, Bruno, and I'm not having a very good show, if I'm to be completely honest.
Why'd you have a big one last night? Who'd you drink with? You're always drinking with famous people, so give us a couple of names.
Thank you, Bruno. No, thank you, Bruno.
I
Yes,
was
used
drinking
to
with
be
none
famous.
other than
Yeah.
David Robinson.
Yeah. And I
I've
call
got
a big
I've got a
party.
mutual friend who's told me that Robbo puts them away. Robbo goes, is like,
That's true.
really
That's,
hard. Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about, Bruno. Bruno, back to your lists. Bruno, your lists.
Bruno,
So,
each week...
guys,
Hey, Bruno, so you put out a list, but this week you're going to get our help.
Yeah, I'm coming to you guys for your help because I had been thinking for a while, geez, I should do a list of Australian TV shows. And when I started to think about it,
Brilliant.
I'm like, you know what? I should go to you guys, cap in hand, and say, listen, Ben, Rob, and Robbo, could you guys work with me on a list? And of course, your viewers can chime in. I'll start putting together all the opinions and the research. And then this time next week, I'll unveil the list.
Yeah,
I love
this is
this.
a brilliant
Oh my God,
idea. Love it.
Yeah.
The best thing. I just came in
So-
my pants.
Oh, but Ben!
Oh, you always say that when I'm on. Enough.
I love.
So-
it's because you've got such beautiful eyes.
Thank you. Now, can I give you guys a few little thought starters for
Yes.
the Australian TV
Please.
shows? Obviously, you know, we want to incorporate like your Blue Healers, your Police Rescues, like the those dramas. I think that's a good start. But also, what about like Man Oh Man? Do we consider that God tier? Do we
Yes,
consider it
yes,
cat
yes, yes,
vomit
yes, yes.
tier? There's quite a few things that we must consider here.
Bruno, can I quickly say that the Man Oh Man pool still exists at what used to be the old Channel 7 Melbourne, and it was actually the old Dancing with the Stars set. So they actually put the set over the pool, but the pool still exists at South Melbourne. It's now called Global Studios, but it's there. So yeah, Man Oh Man. Man Oh Man.
Didn't it get
I'd
filled in,
like to
Robbo, or is it
imagine
just under the
that-
floor?
Sorry, Rob, I'll take your question. What?
Sorry, and I spoke over Bruno.
You did.
I think
Bruno
he told,
said
what
yes.
do you do on a Saturday night? He was like, what do you do on a Saturday night, Robbo?
Okay.
Is it man on
my
man?
My serious question was, didn't they fill that in with cement when they redid the floors, or did they just floor over it?
I understand that they didn't. I believe that they floored over it. What you're thinking about, though, is when Sky Sport Channel 7 in the 80s, he had a lot of tapes put into the pit that they dug for the tennis court at Channel 7 Epping, which is no longer there. More on that later. We'll continue rolling coverage on that very important story. But if we can go back to Bruno now. Bruno, you're talking about TV shows. Bring it back to you, my friend. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. So I need the three of you to help me. I need your viewers to help me to start to get an idea of what we think's great, what we think's crap, and
Right.
as I was saying, some thought starters as well. How do we feel about Who Dares Wins? Great show.
Oh,
No.
great show.
Or not. Or Yasmin's Getting Married. Was that a
No.
great show?
No.
Was that a bad show?
Cat vomit.
It's a bad show. It lasted one episode.
This is a great list. This
Bruno.
is perfect. Everyone will talk about it.
Bruno, can I
I'm
ask you a
hoping
really
guys
quick
can do all
question? I
the
need to
work
know
for
your-
me, and then I'll just put together the visuals.
Yeah, fine. That's
I'm pretty
fair.
sure that I've been muted.
No, you haven't been.
Oh, I haven't been. Sorry, I felt like I'd been muted because I got so excited as soon as you mentioned this, and I just started rocking back and forth in my chair and chanting. But I'm going to say Wentworth for Foxtel needs to be at the top of the list, I reckon. So
Don't give away
that's
it
got to be
now.
there.
Don't give it away
No.
now. We'll have a meeting and we'll work it out. Because
meeting? Oh,
the thing is going to
God.
be the reveal, isn't it, Bruno?
Yeah, the reveal's going to be a big deal. And look, the reason that I need your help as well is because I grew up in a household where I was only allowed to speak French and where I was only allowed to watch French TV. So a lot of the Australian shows I unfortunately missed out on. So
I don't know whether that's
But
good or bad
Bruno-
thing, Bruno.
Bruno, can I quickly ask you, if you were only allowed to watch French, that means you watched a lot of SBS late at night with the boobies?
Oh, no. What my parents did is they installed a big parabolic antenna,
Oh,
like a
I've seen
satellite,
these.
and
Yes,
they picked
yes.
up on the feed that the French government would beam out to the island, so for Tahiti. So, yeah, that was pretty cool.
Fair enough, fair enough.
I love that. Well, Bruno,
Sorry,
we will.
SP.
If you want to contribute to the list, go to the BRR Facebook page. Tweet us on Twitter at BRR Show, and we
Kyle,
will...
do you want to say hi? I'm doing my cross
say
with
hi.
Ben,
Hi.
Rob, and Robbo.
No.
Bring
It's
him
Robbo.
in.
Yeah. Here we go.
Oh, here we go, an exclusive.
Now, the funniest thing is he's had to go chase
believe
him.
I'm on
Kyle, Kyle
Yes,
Sandler.
my
Oh my
hero.
God.
You are live on the internet.
Oh, my hero,
Oh,
Kyle. Hello,
live.
Kyle.
Where's the heads up about live? I could have dropped the big F-bomb.
That was my.
Look,
Hang on,
digital
hang on.
all three of you.
You are the man who put Ida Buttrose live to air, and she didn't even know she was on air. She told me.
That's fine. Those things are, I'm sure Jackie was in charge of telling us she was on. I'm sure it was Jackie.
Oh, this is amazing. I'm
Kyle-
very excited.
I believe yesterday I may have sent you a naked photo of a man. Did you get that? I believe one of your producers
God,
asked
there's
me.
so
was
many
like,
nude photos of men I get. I'll have to sift through them. Usually
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
go straight to the what we call the wink bank, or maybe I've spelt that wrong.
You can say wank. You can say wank.
I'm not good with it. It's some sort of.
Yeah.
Hey, Cole, while I'm asking,
What's
while
happening,
I've got
fellas?
you,
What are you
I'm
guys
gonna-
talking? What's the hot topic today? What are you talking about?
We've been talking riots, of course. We've been talking a lot about riots. We've been
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about the bashing of the Sunrise News crew, and how police are acting. But the hottest topic, you've been a hot topic recently, in the fact that you
Yep.
did that 60 Minutes video. We've talked to Bruno about it, but my take on that piece of television was you were ready to reveal the emotions you were feeling that you talked about on your radio show, and it completely got missed because you threw in a gag to get yourself out of it.
No, wrong again. You're usually right, but you're wrong this time. You know what? I was not. I've read a few articles too that said that, oh, you were going to reveal this, you're going to reveal that, and I walk in there. I think with the intention to reveal nothing, because it's Carl, and I know what Carl knows, and Carl could reveal a lot of things, but he's a pretty good mate. But I think
never
because
said you
when
were
Jackie told me,
intending to
oh,
reveal.
you feel. No, there was no intention to reveal anything. When Jackie said, "Oh, I'm worried about you." Hey guys, I can hear you bleeding from the background. If you keep that down, a lot of people here. So when Carl said, when Jackie said, "Oh, I'm worried about him," worried about his health, then I got that wave of emotion through me. So there was no real intention to reveal anything. I just got
But
a
if
wave
he
of
had
emotion.
pushed you, would
oh
you
my
have
God, I'm
gone
going to cry
into
in
it?
60 minutes. The worst thing ever.
Would you have gone into it if he'd pushed you further for details on that?
No, I'm not wasting these gold moments on 60 Minutes. And it was when I actually watched it on 60 Minutes is when I realised, why did that wave of emotion run through me? It was quite weird to watch it at home. And I thought, something's going on there. And then I realised that earlier in that same piece, Carl had identified that if some things get too tough or too emotional to handle, I will make a joke out of it, or be self-deprecating. And I thought, oh God, he's onto me. And then when I was watching myself, I realised where did that emotion come from? And then I felt sad, and I thought, oh, maybe this is something I've been sort of suppressing or hiding a little bit, or I didn't even know I had it. I just knew that sometimes I can be quite sad, but most of the times I'm pretty up and pretty happy with everything.
Well, that
So,
was a
Kyle, if
pretty
I can ask
amazing
you,
reveal.
it's Robbo here. Sorry, Robert, just there's other people on this
Yes, mate.
podcast. Robert, it's Robbo. I've got to ask you that, you're a broadcaster, you love the media. That's what I love about you as well, so many other reasons. But was it also emotional to be on 60 Minutes? Like, that's a really big brand in Australia. And, I guess we all kind of aspire to do that. Was that a thing for you as well or not?
When they first said, 60 Minutes want to do a story on you guys, celebrating 20 years. And I thought, oh, here we go. They're going to roll out the lie detector, the Magda stuff, the this, the that. And I thought, you know what, that is part of the 20 years. So, of course, they're going to do that. And I think when I found out Carl was doing it, I just rang him and said, don't forget, I've got footage of you too, bro. So, no, I don't really.
Showbiz.
Kyle,
Yeah.
Kyle, you're often
Sorry, go on,
surrounded by people. You're often surrounded by so many people, who just are obsessed with you, and you probably have a lot of yes men around you. But the one thing I wanted to ask you after that 60 Minutes interview is, how are you? Is everything okay? Like, I guess we all have our mental health struggles, and I feel like, do people in your life ask you that question?
Yes, I think sometimes, and over the years, they've probably made the assumption for me rather than actually ask. And maybe I am a bit bullish, so maybe like if someone does come in and does that, how are you sort of thing, they probably have not done that because, like, you know, when by the time they usually get to me, I'm up. I'm most alert and most full on in the morning. I start to sort of drift off into a smoky haze in the afternoon. But the morning I'm super alert. But yeah, no one really comes up and asks. But I've never really asked that many people either. Like you see that, you see the campaigns that come on every year where you say, you know, just ask them, are you okay, right? And then, but my friends aren't the sort of friends that you ask. Hey, how are you? Are you all right? I know that the police raided your house 3 times this month, but are you feeling okay inside? But maybe I should. And since that has come out, I was dreading seeing my mates. I was thinking, oh God, they're going to rib me and they're going to do this. But they were super nice, and they were like, hey bro, and they put their arm around me and said, like, we didn't know that. And I was like, oh, you know, it's fine, like, you know, I feel a bit funny about it, but there's nothing in particular I can grab onto. I think it's just suppressed trauma over the years here and there, mainly as a kid, but you know, it comes out sometimes when you feel let down by people, or you feel like you've had a shit day or whatever. You guys have all had, you know, fair share of shit days yourselves.
Absolutely.
This should be called the Shit Day Crew, this whole thing. That's a bad image. I can't
We are changing the name.
But
Sorry,
because of the way that was promoted,
do ask.
because of the way that was promoted, it really put you in a position where you had to explain yourself, and it got very emotional the day after when you were talking about your real personality. That's something you talk a lot about, your personal life, but not about your feelings. So that was a really different dynamic that Monday morning when you spoke about that.
It was, because I think it got advertised, and people were like, oh, I was reading things on the, you know, someone read, I said, print me out some of the messages on the news forums about that 60 Minutes thing. And it was like, oh, Sandland's such a show pony. You know, he faked the whole sickness. And I was like, hang on, that was a 60 Minutes promo. And that wasn't me. In the moment, for me, it was like a 30-second joke at Jackie's expense, and we all laughed. I didn't even think they'd use it. So when it turned into promo, I was like, oh, I can understand people might have felt they'd been clickbaited. I hate that myself. Like, I still get fooled if I walk past. If I go to buy ciggies in the servo in the morning, guys can still hear every word you're saying. You understand what broadcasting is? I've only been doing this for 20 years. Okay, so, sorry, a lot of people are very busy. They don't care about the showbiz stuff. They're doing real work. I can't remember what I was saying now. You've thrown me off course.
Sorry. Sorry. No, Kyle, I'm going to apologise. These two are idiots. We know that, and we're surrounded by idiots. I'm going to ask you one.
I'm talking about my guys at my end, imbeciles.
Oh, I'm talking about my
he's
guys
talking
at
about
my
us.
end. Yeah, no, they're bloody idiots.
Just
This is
quietly,
really
you
important.
pointed to Carl when you said that, just so you know. You pointed the wrong camera way.
Oh, sorry, showbiz. Hey, I'm going to do the showbiz trick. I'm going to give you a...
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, wrong side.
Carl has been very gracious, and I don't mean to harp on this, but Carl, I've worked with you. I've been lucky enough to be in the studio with you, and the thing is that always strikes me is that you are such a nice man, and you are actually so wonderful. And you wouldn't remember this, but the first time I met you, I was doing a day in the life of Jennifer Hawkins, and I was working at Sunrise at the time. And I said to you, I am such a big fan. My wife and I listen to you every day going into work, and I've actually got my wife sitting next to me. She switches the whole show and runs everything.
Yeah.
But you were genuinely shocked that someone in the media liked you. And this is, I'm going back to 2006 or something like that. And I remember being very confused by this. You were number one, you were riding high, but it was almost like you felt there's the audience and then there's people in the media who don't get me and don't like me. Did I
did think that for a very long time. No, you 100% nailed that. I did that because I think that what we forget in life is that haters, or people that don't like you, or if you read a bad, nasty message or a blog about yourself, and you see maybe 6 or 7 of them, you start thinking, oh, this is a pattern. Everyone thinks this is no good. And I think I did the same thing as we do when we look at comments online. Back then, I would see, oh, that person in the Telegraph doesn't like me, on this person in TV Week said this horrible thing, and I know that editor at that newspaper. So I just thought, oh, maybe they don't like me because I was loud and a bit of a bulldozer. And Jackie used to say the same thing to me at the beginning of the radio. When we started on breakfast at Today FM 20 years ago, the journalist asked us, American Rosso on Nova, they're number one And I was like, they're finished in 3 months. Then they'll break up and you'll never hear from them again, right? And Jackie was horrified. She was like, don't say that. Like, it's so arrogant and so it's not what people want. But that's what I truly thought. And strangely enough, that exact thing happened. So, like, I'm not a psychic or anything, but I just felt that way. And I think a lot of people were like, oh, you've got to be a little bit, kinder or nicer. And maybe, I've learned a few lessons over the years that, yes, you can be. There are times to be nice and kind. And a lot of my early career, I just bulldozed. And, that made me hundreds of millions of dollars. So soz, everyone. Soz.
And you said the same thing when you went to KISS, the front page of the Sunday Telegraph. You were there going, we'll be number one from the get-go.
I truly believed it. I thought, if I love Law and Order and it's on Channel 10, and if Channel 7 ended up getting the deal, I'd just turn over to Channel 7 to watch Law and Order. I don't know where it is. I'd even go to SBS if Law and Order was on there. And I don't even have SBS on my TV. So you go where your favourite show goes. So I thought, what's the difference for a radio show? If people love this radio show, it doesn't matter where it is, they will follow. I truly believed it. And there was commentators and experts, media experts going, he'll be lucky if he takes 15% of his audience. He's a delude. And I was like, wow, that's the first time I thought, I never even thought of only taking a small percentage. I just assumed I'd Pied Piper everyone over to KISS. And once again, I was right.
You did.
It's almost embarrassing. I'm right that often. It's ridiculous.
Mate, I have the same problem. Let me ask you this.
Another question.
Yes, another question. I'm dominating. Sorry, but when you went over, there was such a hatred from Austereo towards you and Jackie, and it was almost like their rebrand was a big two-finger salute to you guys. And I've never seen managers or a company so happy to lose two of their biggest stars to a new rival network. Was it just sheer arrogance that the management thought they were bigger than
I don't know.
brand?
You know what? We had a great relationship with Austereo, the original Austereo, for years and years. Then they got sold to Southern Cross.
Yep.
And then the Southern Cross guys came in. They seemed like good enough blokes. They drank beer by the large neck. But anyway, that must be a Queensland thing. And they were a bit they sort of wanted to run this gigantic radio station and television network like it was a used car yard in the outer suburbs.
Yeah.
Like lots of cigarettes and blokes talking, and everyone does as they're told. But we were like, well, we've already sort of got a thing going on here. And then they pretty much said to us, well, we're not going to re-sign you for a year because we think you've only got like a 5 year. And I was like, well, we've already been 10, so how have we only got 5 years in total in breakfast? And they were like, well, that's even more of a reason we think you're at the end. And I said, well, you're idiots. I said, we're nowhere near the end. I said, I feel that we're not even in the middle of our career yet. And they were like, oh, well, research says, and I thought, these are research idiots.
Yeah.
Research is great to have, but you've got to go with your gut. If you just get a bunch of fat middle-aged people in a room because you're offering free pizza and asking them questions on what they think radio and TV should be, they're really only there for the pizza. And if they're free on a Wednesday night, they're usually losers. So who wants to run their whole radio network based on what free pizza-eating losers that are free on a Wednesday night think? Not me.
Robbo, you wanted to ask.
So amazing.
Kyle, I've got to say, and I'm not just being like what did Malcolm Turnbull call Bill Shorten? A sycophant. I'm not being a sycophant, I promise. But
I love that word.
Thank you. It feels slightly dirty. But anyway, a mutual friend of ours, the wonderful Matt Simpson, we often talk about you and we watch clips of you. And what we love about you is that you just don't give a shit. And I think that's really important because everyone else in media is always very scared about saying the wrong words. Like, can I still call, a black person, all that? You don't care about that.
It's a worry too. I get it. I get it.
It is a worry. It is, but it's brilliant that you're able to do it.
But it's not a brave thing. It is, I've used my money that I've made out of radio and invested in other ventures. So I've got a sangria business, Nueva Sangria. I've got the H2 Cocoa companies. I've been in nightclub businesses. I've the company that creates content. I've got interest in record labels overseas. I do consulting for, I've got money pouring in on many dimensions. So if someone does say, and I'm lucky enough that I rate well enough, and I've got a big enough platform that it's not that easy to get rid of me. I'd have to really do something super dumb. And it's not just what one. The problem is with media is one person or 5 people can write a letter and say, "Oh, I was insulted about this, and I think that it's disgusting, and I'll never get over it." And that can change. That someone can get cancelled or get fired for that, or they start attacking advertisers, and then people are shamed for being on. We saw it with Alan Jones, and and like some people think, he's a bit of an old school. He did some dumb things every now and then, but he's Alan. So, and some people are like, no, I mean, it's outrageous. I want him finished. I want him ended. His life's got to end. That's how.
There's got to be something though, Kyle.
I spent a bit of time. Hey, when this happened to me, I started looking at someone else. I started looking around. Who are these people that are trying to get me fired? This is years ago, and I realised that the main offender was a lady and another bloke in Ballarat, and we're not even heard in Ballarat back then, and there was no iHeart Radio or anything. And I thought these people have got nothing better to do. They just want me ended. So
there's got to be something though, Kyle. There's got to be something that you've done at some point in your career that you take back. If you could take back one thing that you've said on air,
I know what that would be.
What is it?
Oh, look, you know what? No, there's not. And a lot of people go, "Oh, well, what about the lie detector? You should take that back."
That was my
But guess
assumption.
what? I actually
I reckon he's going to say something different.
That girl for a long time. I was under the assumption that poor girl was 21. Don't forget, I was in New Zealand operating out of the Sofitel Hotel on a ski holiday when that show happened. I had no control of any buttons. On my sheet said she was 21, and at no stage did anyone even know she was going to get asked that question. So, and then afterwards, the media, once they sort of kicked me around a bit, they were like, "We demand to know who she is." And then they started to try to find the girl and the mother. And I just said, I could come out and say what the lie detector actually said when she said that. I could say,
but you didn't.
The mum shouldn't have asked that. I could have said what the real situation was, but the girl was 14, so I chose, if someone's going to suffer over this, it's going to be me, not a 14-year-old kid. Wow. And she's made contact since, and the mother, and said, "Hey, you should. We see this comes up every now and then. You should say what happened, what really happened." And I just said, "No, I got blamed." I took it because it was my responsibility. At the end of the day, it was my show. And I wasn't going to throw a mum, a desperate, confused, worried mother and a troubled 14-year-old girl under the bus. People think they know everything, but they don't really know anything. If you really knew what happened behind the scenes with that, you'd think, "Oh, maybe I should keep my mouth shut, not just assume I know everything." Because it took on a life of its own. What really happened and how it was reported on the TV and on Talkback Radio, like anyone would think, the story twisted and perception became reality. So I just thought, I just got to protect my job here. That was the only time I thought I'd really going to get the flick.
Well, they were gunning for you.
It boiled down to me and the chairman of Oz Stereo at the time having a cigarette together and nutting it out, just him and I, because there was a boardroom full of people going, "Well, I think," and there's members of the board that think, and then I thought, you know what? Let's just you and me sort it out. We went out, chain smoked about 6 ciggies, and we sorted it out. Luckily, I survived through that.
Well,
Absolutely.
and once
but that
again,
wasn't the
came
one
down
thing.
to
That wasn't the
media
one thing, though.
No, that one. Yeah, sorry, you're right. No one cares about your original question. It was the depth.
No. Well, it's a pretty good exclusive, Kyle. So we'll let you talk about it. But I still don't think.
Okay,
I think
there's
that
one.
you're pretty safe
One
with
thing
that
I
one.
regret doing is my protege, Jason Hawkins, who does the breakfast show Kiss in Melbourne now. Labby, I used to call him.
Yeah.
I made him jerk off in a car one night live on the radio because he was running late to where he should have been giving away stickers and cans of Coke. I felt bad about that.
Oh my God!
Don't feel bad about that. That is inspired. Right. That's original. That's a brilliant. Go on.
Yeah. No one even bothered to say anything. No one said, "Hey, what happened last night with that guy in the car?" Nothing. I don't think anyone even heard it.
Every Wednesday, we're going to get you on the show because we're obsessed with you. All three of us have basically wanked you off the whole way through this because we love you so much. So if you are looking to be wanked off every Wednesday, come and join us on the show.
Thank you, Ben.
Oh, what an advert.
I know.
It's going to be lined up around the block.
So, Kyle, there's been a lot of reporting about your salary. Are you prepared to tell us just how much you're earning?
Oh,
come
God, I have to actually find out.
Oh, come on.
is,
You can't ask him that.
No, I don't mind. Stuff comes from different places, so I don't even...
Just the radio
I
gig
don't
would
even
be
know.
fine.
No,
Whatever they reported, like I remember they first reported it around $50 million, and I thought, bitch, please, $50 million.
Kyle, you don't have to answer
So
that.
there's bonuses and stuff in there as well, you know, like man's got to eat.
The man's got to eat. That's what I'm going to ask you. Oh, a brilliant segue. I've really got to ask you this. I ask everyone who I talk to ever because I'm really socially awkward and I can never think of things to say. So I'm going to ask you the same question I ask everyone. What's for your tea tonight, Kyle?
What's for tea tonight? Well, because I've been going to the doctors a lot, I've got a whole box of U-Foods. I'm sitting at home and I've gone through and I thought, oh my God, I'm eating microwave food. Like, how's this happen? I'm feeling in prison. But it's actually pretty bloody good and it's the right quality. So I'm thinking tonight I'll have, there's this like a spaghetti bolognese I've been keeping my eye on.
Oh,
I'll be eating
nice. Beautiful tea.
And
Thank
it
you,
sounds like
Kyle.
I'm dropping sponsor credits all through here. I'm paying for this shit too, by the way.
No, you might as well.
I'm not
because
getting paid by U-Foods. I just enjoy their stuff.
Kyle, we know you're an up-and-comer, so is there anything you need to plug? Where can we find your radio show?
I'd love to be able to like do a like a guest appearance at like a Wollongong nightclub or something. I'm hoping that someone will reach out and like in return for a bar tab and like an Uber. I'd love to be able to, as I climbed. I remember I started off in Sydney. I was getting paid good money, but I was still out there scamming the $1,000 appearance fees out of Parramatta nightclub, getting couples up on the stage with a Violet Crumble bar, playing Suck the Chock. And the idea was the guy would think he was going to be the big man, but I put the guy on his knees. The girl would undo the Violet Crumble bar and stick it between her legs. The guy would have to hold his head back and suck and he had to suck the chocolate off the Violet Crumble. And if there's any teeth marks, obviously instantly disqualified. Whoever got to the Violet Crumble first won the $100 bar voucher. And I was getting booked, baby. I was getting booked every week. Everyone loves Suck the Chock.
Oh, bring that back.
It worked this week. Anyway, still out and about there.
Kyle, you are an absolute legend. Look, thank you for popping in. You've made our day.
You're
so
welcome,
thank you
you're
very
welcome.
much for that. I'm so hungover
Thanks, guys.
today, and you have made me laugh. Yeah, Robbo's
You
at
look
my
so
place.
good.
Robbo's
I
at my
look
place.
hungover. I haven't had a drink since I was 21 years old, and I look like a big grog monster.
Do you not drink?
No,
I
he
don't
doesn't drink.
No. Anyway. See you later, guys. Great to be on the alley with ya.
Thank you so much, Kyle. That was very kind.
So you mate.
He's gone. One way to
That's
end
the
an
best way to
interview.
finish one of these chats.
Yeah. Well, can I
Sorry,
just
that
say,
was amazing.
unbelievable, right? Unbelievable just to have
Mate,
Kyle pop in.
I'm actually really upset. I'm really upset with you, Rob, though. You managed to drop my entertainment section today for Kyle Sandilands? What's the world come to?
How could
Well,
he? How
I
dare
don't
he?
know what Ticker want us to do because I did get their permission to go over because Carl popped by. It's at a really weird time for them. It's 2:16, so we possibly could do entertainment.
I think you just sign off. I think Ticker's probably waiting for you, waiting to go.
I think so too. We can do it tomorrow. That's a
No one
great way
cares
to end the
about.
show.
No one cares about my stories. I can't top that. I can't top it.
Thank you to Bruno for making that happen. What a way to end the show. Guys,
Wonderful.
we will see you tomorrow on the Ben, Rob and Robbo show. See you there.
See you guys.
It's the Ben, Rob and Robbo, Ben, Rob and Robbo, Ben, Rob and Robbo show.